welcome back. We're talking about violence in video games is the topic right now.
Everybody wants to talk about this right now, right?
Well, it's not anything new. This is something that even back in the 90s, I remember after Columbine, there was this large discussion about blaming video games.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, you know, it was kind of a new thing, a violent video game. Before then, there was shooting and there was violence and there was death. You know, look at a game like Contra. I mean, but it was cartoony on a level that didn't really seem to bother the politicians until, you know, you get to the early 90s and then technology gets better and you get Mortal Kombat and Night Trap, and we all know how that played out. Yeah. But after every big shooting, it's a big deal all over again, and we're seeing that right now. There's been a couple of shootings, and of course you got politicians and parents groups and whatnot, you know, looking for something to blame. Yeah. And this kind of just seems like an easy target for them because they don't really know anything about it.
First of all, in terms of like a massacre and a mass shooting, whether it's Vegas or it's Parkland, we don't pretend to have all the answers. It's a complex situation. The psychology behind somebody who takes a gun into a school and shoots everything in sight, the psychology behind that is very complex. Yeah. And so
there's a lot of, you know, parenting issues.
A lot of parenting
upbringing
issues.
And who even knows?
And we're not here to talk about all.
We're not psychologists.
It seems like every politician on the left and on the right loves to blame video games whenever something like this happens. We'll show a tweet from President Trump. Video game violence and glorification must be stopped. It is creating monsters.
He wasn't President Trump at that point either.
Oh, you're right. You're right. This was just Donald J. Trump, rich guy, when he tweeted this out. And this isn't a left and right discussion.
No, I mean, Joe Biden was the first politician. What did I say?
You said Joe
one of the Joes.
They're both the same.
Joe Lieberman, who was a Democrat, he was one of the very first politicians.
Would not shut up about it.
Who really would not shut up back in the 90s. And he was all anti-Mortal Kombat and anti-Night Trap.
I remember reading the game magazines in the 90s and just reading those articles thinking, no, this
who
guy's
is this
going to take our violence away. No, please don't.
I didn't even know who he was. I was a teenager.
I had no idea. He was a senator from somewhere else. All this talk from whether it's Joe Lieberman or Donald Trump or whoever it is, they want to use video games as one of these big reasons why some 17-year-old walks into a school with a gun. Okay, what you and I are here to say is that it's actually quite the opposite. and this might sound controversial, but I fully believe that kids, that boys absolutely need violence in their lives. Oh, man, I can already hear the people yelling at us.
They do. They need an outlet. Always have a built-in, like, aggression / I don't know, there's a certain energy there. It's hard to define, but they need to get that out. And, you know, they need to play sports. They need to play football and dodgeball and all these kinds of things. And now that stuff is being taken away from them.
Yeah, even dodgeball. They don't even really play dodgeball in schools anymore. I mean, when you and I were growing up, it was just like dodgeball was the best thing ever. And we used tennis balls. And we would have used
not in school, but like
not in school.
In the neighborhood.
Yeah. And honestly, if we would have had access to golf balls, we probably would have used them.
Probably.
Right? But boys need that when they're growing up. They have to have that kind of violence. Now, and here's the thing. The history of human civilization, virtually every single male at some point in his life was either fighting in a military or killing animals
or fighting
with
to stay
weapons,
alive.
or fighting to stay alive, especially in the last, say, 30 to 40 years, that for the most part, men aren't fighting each other and killing animals. We don't have to. We can go to the store and we can buy food. The animal's already been killed for you. And we don't have a draft anymore where 70% of all the men are going overseas to fight. But men are wired this way. We are born and bred to be fighters and soldiers. And the way I look at it, if you look at the way technology has progressed to the point where we are right now, people should be cheering video games. Finally,
an outlet.
An outlet.
Yes.
That is all virtual. It's not real. People should be going, yes, please, play Mortal Kombat, play Call of Duty, play Halo, play Grand Theft Auto. Please, play these games, Junior, You need to release this energy, and you need to have these fights, these virtual fights, where nobody's really killed or harmed, but as a 12-year-old boy, you release that energy. I mean, look at the best-selling video games since the turn of the century. You see a theme here?
I don't know, for some reason Madden really bumped up there in the mid-2000s.
That's the only thing I'm seeing here. But even Madden, it's football, which is a kind of a violent sport.
It is.
Right? So even that's a form of violence. But for the rest of it, it's Call of Grand Theft Auto. That's all it is. And then you fast forward to today, and you look at a game like Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, full disclosure, I didn't even play 1 through 4. And since I got 5 a few years ago, I probably played 400 hours of it, something like that. So I mean, I couldn't stop playing it. I mean, it was a 37-year-old guy. I could not stop playing Grand Theft Auto 5. It was just, there's just something about the idea
I'm 37, I'm not old.
Of walking down the street and going, you know what? That car looks better than mine. I think I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And you smash the window, and you pull the person out, and you take their car, and you drive away. You want to go punch somebody, you can punch somebody. They've sold 90 million copies of that game in the last 5 years. I was at GameStop the other day. Guess what else is in their new game section right now?
GTA 5.
GTA 5 came out 5 years ago. It's still a new game according to GameStop. The education system is really designed for girls.
Yeah.
It's not designed for boys. You read about this classroom where the teacher sees little Johnny and he's staring out the window. All he can do is stare out the window. He doesn't want to focus on whatever they're studying in the classroom. And
he's not interested in it.
He's not interested. He wants to go outside and he wants to wrestle with his friends.
Yeah. She thinks something is wrong with
him. The teacher, the female teacher probably, thinks something has to be wrong with little Johnny. He's got a learning disability, whatever. No, nothing's wrong with him. Guess what? Men are wired to go outside and wrestle with each other. That's all we want to do at some point in our life. They do not want to be cooped up in a classroom. We're cooping our boys up in classrooms. We're saying, you made a gun with your hand and you pointed at somebody? Well, now you're expelled from school. All right?
Zero tolerance.
And the boy goes to school the next day and makes a gun, takes his Pop-Tart and shapes it into a gun, and then he gets suspended from school. Like, come on.
What kind of messages are we sending?
What are we doing to our boys? We're wrecking our boys. No wonder they're turning into mass murders. This is ridiculous. I mean, they got to have something different for boys and girls. And right now that line is being skewed into nothing. You get companies like Target who are like, oh, look, we have one bathroom for everybody now, and we're going to have gender-neutral toy aisles and stuff like that. It's like, no! Let boys be boys. If you don't let boys be boys, and you take away the violence, the virtual violence that they need when they're younger, guess what's going to happen when they're older? And, I've known some girls that play Call of Duty or Halo here and there.
Yeah.
But boys need to play it. That's the difference. Boys have to play because we're not fighting wars anymore. We're not hunting animals anymore. We're not even playing dodgeball in school anymore. A young male is like a bomb. I mean, you have to release that energy, and if you don't do it on a slow and steady pace, it's going to get built up and you're going to explode later in life. I was at a garage sale last summer. Quick story. I was asking about video games like I always do. I think I found a video game, but it was something that I wasn't interested in, and then she said, "Oh yeah, my boys, they're into different kinds of games or something like that." And I said, "Oh yeah, they're probably into Call of Duty," because I think she told me they were 10 and 12 years old or something like that. I said, "Oh yeah, they're probably playing Call of Duty."
Yeah.
And she said, "No, they're not. I don't let my boys play Call of Duty." And I jokingly chuckled, and I said, "Well, they're probably playing at their friend's house because, of course you
find
are.
a way.
You find your way." And she got dead serious, and she looked at me and she said, "Not my boys." And I just kind of left it at that, and I left that garage sale.
Keep believing
First
that,
of all,
lady.
they are.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, boys go to their friend's house, and you tell them not to watch an R-rated movie, or you tell them not to do whatever. Come on.
Sure, Mom.
Yeah.
Sure thing. At
Are you
that
kidding
age,
me?
they're playing it.
Yeah. Second of all, let your freaking boys play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Jeez. They have to. You want to talk about a mass murder in the making? You tell your 14-year-old boy that he can't play a violent video game? What are we doing here?
Again, they're bottling up that energy.
Yep.
And someday it's gonna be released. And I'm not claiming that everyone is gonna turn into a school shooter, but there are other negative ways to release that energy. Some guys just turn into dicks. Some guys, they treat women like crap their whole lives.
It's true. Boys are different than girls. Oh, what did I just say? Is that even controversial now? Come on. Go ahead, YouTube. Try to censor me. Go ahead and demonetize our video that isn't even monetized.
Yeah.
Boys are
Knock
different than
yourself
girls.
out.
Yeah, we have 5 subscribers right now. Knock yourself out, YouTube. Let boys be boys. Stop it, society. What are we doing? The game that I'm playing through right now that I just started is Assassin's Creed Origins. And I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game in probably 10 years. I don't remember this from when back in the day playing the first 2 Assassin's Creed games, but when you're killing guys in this game, it is like a Mortal Kombat fatality sometimes. It is brutal, and there's just blood flying everywhere. And I'm going,
Nice.
I mean, yeah, it's awesome. It's unnecessary. I mean, it's...
There's a perk in Fallout 3 that specifically just upped the violence when you killed somebody.
That's awesome.
Did no good whatsoever. No practical, it didn't help you in any way. It was just like, next time you kill someone, it's a high percentage chance that their head is going to explode and their limbs are going to fall off.
And you know,
don't get me wrong, I got that perk as soon as I could.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know why all these games have so much violence in them? Who's
They're
developing
made by
all these
men.
games? Exactly.
Well, you mentioned women. I'm not bad-mouthing females here, but women kind of do run the education system in this country. Look at who are all the teachers. I mean, think back to all the teachers you had.
80%, right?
How many of them were female?
Yeah.
I mean, just in my own experience, I'd say 8 out of 10 at least. And then you've got, principals, superintendents, all the way
Super
up
Nintendo
to
Chalmers,
all the way up to
the president of education.
The National Education Board or whatever they call them. So these are just filled with women writing the curriculum, making all the rules, and they're looking at these young boys as defective because they have this tendency towards, aggression, and they want to throw things at each other, and that's where they're wrong. They need to, we're in a society where men and boys are being asked to suppress their nature, but no one is asking women to suppress their nature.
Good point.
Quite the opposite, in fact. And I'm not suggesting they should either, but I have a big problem with asking half the population to suppress their nature.
And this is a big problem because we're asking boys, society is telling boys to not be who they are biologically. Society is deprogramming all these boys to not be boys. We talk about all this violence, we talk about the need for all this violence and how we're programmed and how we're wired. I'm not saying any of that is a good thing. Look, I wish it were different. I wish that we don't have a world history book that's full of wars and violence, and I wish guys weren't like this. I really do. Honestly, women are just better people. I mean, how many murders are committed by women?
What would the crime
None?
rate be if guys weren't around? I mean,
Exactly.
You wouldn't even need police anymore.
So this isn't me just making an excuse and saying, oh, well, we can't help ourselves. No, look, well, maybe I am making that excuse. This is who we are, and we don't have an outlet for violence.
Think about the last several thousand years of humanity. In almost every culture, you were either thrown into the military, willingly or unwillingly, and even up until not that long ago. I mean, I've heard guys tell stories about living in the 1950s and stuff like that, and their uncles would go to bars every night, just get into bar fights all the time.
Yeah.
And it probably even still happens today. I don't know. I mean, I don't even really hang out at bars anymore.
So why they call it the Wild West? That's all they did was fight. They drank and they fought.
I know.
That's all they did.
It wasn't that long ago in history.
And I'm not saying any of that is good. That's all bad. But what is good is now we can do it with a controller in our hands, and we're not hurting anybody. Just let us do that.
Yes.